I have to change things. It's just not working like this. Now, this is something we've all felt at some point or the other. Whether in the form of a business plateau, a job that's going nowhere, or a relationship that just feels stuck, we have all experienced this feeling of wanting to change and of wanting more and of wanting to upgrade our lives. And or not to, but for all intended purposes, that's a good thing. To want to change, to look at your life and say, I could do better, I want to do better, and I want to improve is a good thing. After all of humanity's progress is based on that, of wanting to change, of wanting to upgrade. But that's not the purpose of today's video. Because while wanting to change is a beautiful thing and a very good thing for you, for the other ones, everyone around you, what usually comes after is not. And that is a need for validation. As we begin to search for a solution in books, in courses, in coaches, we very quickly, or it's very easy to become overwhelmed. With infinite information out there, how do you choose? How do you make the choice between this method or that method or that method? And then we get frustrated and we get overwhelmed, and this is when the problem begins. Because in our search for certainty and just trying to find the method that will solve it all, we end up going down a path that in the future is going to be absolutely detrimental for us. Because when we give our power of decision away, we guarantee that even if we succeed, we won't be happy with it. And that's why in today's video we're going to be covering number one, why chasing other people's guaranteed success formulas is actually holding you back. How I accidentally created a business breakthrough by doing the exact opposite of what experts told me, and the real key to making changes that actually stick and that you can feel good doing. Now, when we begin this search for a method, for a solution, for a secret perhaps, like I was saying, it's very easy to get overwhelmed. And that is because we live in an age of infinite information. And you can go to YouTube, to Google, to ChatGPT, to infinite books, to courses, infinite information about how to solve a certain problem. Now, the problem with that is that with infinite information, it becomes very, very difficult to choose. And most people, perhaps you as well, get more overwhelmed and frustrated after you begin searching than before you did so. And so what this naturally leads to, all this frustration, all this confusion, all this overwhelm, is to trying to solve it and to find a solution that will just solve all of your problems. And the problem with that is that it naturally, a lot of times for a lot of people, lends to you clinging to someone that very confidently says the method they're preaching and that this is the ultimate solution. Now, they may be right, and perhaps it's the right method for you, but in our confusion and overwhelm, we tend to rush actions. Because we're tired of this, we just want something to do and to move forward and to begin feeling that progress, we rush into things. And so perhaps the first person you see that is claiming to do these things and claiming to solve your problems, you cling to it without strategizing, without planning properly, without really taking the necessary time to vet it and to see if it's the right thing for you. And, you may say, or some people may get lucky with this and may really find that correct solution right away. However, there's two problems with this. First of all, you can only get lucky for so long. So even if you do once or twice and you could keep getting lucky, eventually that will run out, and then you're going to be left off clinging to a solution that is not the right for you, that doesn't work, but now you don't even know how to adapt and to change, and overall it's not going to work. You cannot base your approach to progress based on luck. Now, the other side of this, perhaps even more detrimental in a long-term side of life, is that by doing so and by not really taking the time to make your own decisions and think about them and decide on them by yourself, you give away one of the most important things for a life well lived. And that is the power of choice and knowing you made your own decisions. Whether those brought the rewards you want or consequences you didn't want, at least you chose it. And so a big problem with this, and I've experienced both sides of this, is that if you make decisions based on just someone being very confident and you follow them blindly, even if you succeed, you're going to end up living a life you don't want to live. You're going to be stuck in a prison of your own making, looking successful for people on the outside and people that just see you living your life, but feeling suffocated by it as you go day to day. Now, how do I know this? Well, I've experienced both sides of this problem, and I want to share with you how that happened, how I went about it, and a better solution I found for it. Now, it was the winter of 2018, if I'm not mistaken, when I decided to quit my job and pursue passive meaning full time. So I did that. I even went away for a month, created some things, and then, long story short, eventually I got successful, and it allowed me to, go to my own place, live my own life, and really see an upgrade in my life in kind of real time. In the beginning, it was great because, I'm not used to these things. It's new. It's, you're being successful, and it's great. However, no success is big enough that you won't get used to it. And the problem for me was that I was following a process that was pretty much based on, which was what everyone was preaching at the time, doing sort of high-level one-on-one coaching, that you charge more money, but then you need to work with less clients. And it gives the impression that, less people, so it's simpler, makes more money, it's great. However, anyone that did it or anything similar knows that the whole process of, creating content, reaching out to people, messaging back and forth, and taking calls, and then fulfilling on, the clients that do the thing you're actually selling, this process is very, very time consuming and also sort of mind space consuming. It gets you very tired. And so I noticed that, in the beginning it was fine because, there were all these rewards that made me forget about the rest. But once I got used to it, I realized that I'm getting very tired. All my days spent on things I don't really enjoy doing or that I don't feel like it's progressing me in any way. I feel very stuck at this level that then I ended up in. And so I realized that like I was saying before, I created a prison of my own making. Now, I wish I could tell you that, I very quickly realized this and then I shifted and that, it was a very smooth process. However, when you feel like you're drowning, all your effort goes onto the next breath and on just trying to stay afloat. And so it was some years until I realized that, and I really was able not to fully realize, but above all to implement a solution for it. And that came about when I was, I don't know exactly how many years ago, but I remember I was traveling and I was in Albania with my girlfriend. So we were traveling and there was some problems there with the internet, because I remember, obviously I need the internet to do everything that I do. And I was working on my computer and then I hear this noise, sort of like outside something hitting, and then the internet goes away. And what happened was that some truck backing up hit the electricity box or internet, I don't know exactly, but essentially the internet was out and it was out for 3 days. Now this would probably be the workaholic's worst nightmare, as you're there, unable to work. I could go to a coffee shop, but there everything was very chaotic and loud and noisy, so there was no real place around that I could be working, taking calls, doing my things in peace, fully focused. And so naturally, when you're, trying to stay afloat, but then you see the sort of the hole in your boat get wider and more water is coming in that you can't throw out, you start to panic and you start to feel very suffocated and you start to feel like everything is gonna collapse. Now, long story short, after a lot of thoughts and sort of quote unquote talks with God and things like that, I realized that it couldn't go on like that. Even if I was to be able to overcome this and just keep staying afloat, I don't want to just stay afloat. You likely don't want to just stay afloat. We want more. We don't want to perpetually just be having to grind and hustling 10, 12-hour days just to stay where we are. And so, against common practice and what people would advise, I decided to, instead of just doing what everyone was recommending, I'm going to try a different approach. I'm going to take that into consideration, but I'm going to make it my own. And I realized that at the time, a lot of people were asking us for the images of our posts. So I'd post and be like, I would post it and I'd be like, people would be like, where did you, this image from? Can you send me the image? And I realized people want the images. They want, in a lot of ways, wallpapers for their phones, for their computers about these images. And so I decided, instead of just straight up selling what I'm selling right away, I'll create these wallpapers and make people a smoother, easier entry, and then get the money from that, increase revenue from that, and also then be able to pitch to those same people in a smoother way, in a process that doesn't require as many steps and backs and forths and all of these things. And so I decided, you know what, let's just do that. And surprise, surprise, not only I was happier before I even launched because I was doing my own thing and following my intuition and my gut, but then it actually worked much, much better. And I realized, and it's what I hope that you realize as well, is that the path that is now clear was once uncharted. What everyone is doing right now was once something no one did. For a long time I had, as J. Cole very eloquently put it in one of his songs, The good news is that you came a long way. The bad news is that you went the wrong way. And that's what had happened to me. And perhaps from the outside, and as I was saying, you'd look and be like, oh, great progress and all that. But inside, I didn't feel like that. And it wasn't until I made this change that everything changed. Should you research? Yes. Should you try and study different methods and tactics? Of course. Should you learn from those ahead of you and more experienced? Absolutely. What I'm preaching here is not to live with the arrogance and confidence of those that, while knowing nothing, act as if they do know everything. Instead, what you want here is what I like to call calculated boldness, where you do your research and study and learn from all these people, but then ultimately you choose to make the decision that you feel is the most right for your life. Because you have to be aware that between your two ears sits a mind powerful enough, when applied and focused and disciplined, to create every technological advance that we see around us. Do not go and disrespect it by trying to find this sort of 5 steps for success or some cookie cutter thing to get you where you want to. Everyone is different, you are different, what you want is different from everyone else, and so yes, research and study and take these methods, but then you have to make them your own. Now, I do understand the appeal of just putting your responsibility into someone else's hands and trusting they will get you where you want, but you have to realize that this is not their life, it is yours. The right path is not only one that makes all the right adjustments and implements the right methods and techniques, but crucially, one that you can look back and say, I chose this. A path you're responsible for charting. Now, if you are displeased with the path you're on, realize that first of all, you are the sole responsible for being in it. And sure, you can be upset about it and frustrated and make yourself the victim, but that won't help. What you can do instead is realize that I chose this until now, but you can be now responsible for choosing a different way and choosing where you want to go. But you have to choose.